Once again, President Biden at NATO headquarters today about what a Russian chemical attack would mean.
We would respond if he uses it. The nature of the response would depend on the nature of the use.
There you go. Respond can mean nothing or everything. It's the opposite of the 2014 Obama red line on chemical weapons that Putin walked over without punishment. Now imagine you are Putin or his generals, and you read this in the New York Times from last night. The Times quotes a senior administration official who said any use of small tactical nuclear bombs by Russia, even inside Ukraine, and not directed at a NATO member, would mean that all bets are off on the United States and NATO staying out of the war. But when pushed, the official declined to lay out the responses under discussion. This is a bombshell. Think about who reads the New York Times. Russian intelligence, the presidents and prime ministers of Europe, the Chinese. It holds itself out to be the paper of record. And that quote, which radically changes U.S. foreign policy about nuclear weapons, is given precisely zero context, especially about who that senior administration official is. It can mean so many things. For example, it could be Jake Sullivan or Antony Blinken, Secretary of State or National Security Advisor, telegraphing a change in policy. This would be a huge deal. They are often listed as senior administration officials. But the Times often uses that term, senior administration official, shall we say, loosely. Just remember Miles Taylor. He was the famed anonymous of the New York Times op-ed lore who wrote about secretly protecting the country from President Trump from, in his words, the inside. The Times called him a senior administration official. Turns out he was then deputy chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security, who leaked to the Times. He was the man who was behind the woman who was behind the man. The Times called him a senior administration official. He wrote that op-ed, it sounded sexy, and then he cashed in on a huge book deal. Calling him a senior administration official is like calling me an influential primetime cable host. Perhaps technically true, I do influence my dog's opinion, and I am in prime time. But it's not what you think about when you hear the term. We bring in Colby Hall of Mediaite, who is an actual influential member of the media, also a NewsNation producer. Colby, good to see you. Did the Times owe us and the world a little bit more when you're going to announce a change of U.S. nuclear policy?
Well, I think they could have been a little bit more specific, certainly. I think you set it up beautifully there. I think there's a lot to go through. I think there's a big Miles Taylor is the perfect example. But I will say that the Times is that when they do those sort of loose that was an anonymous, literally byline. That was really a political hit piece. This thing about the nuclear weapon preparation, that's a lot more serious. And so I think generally the New York Times holds itself to a higher sort of gold standard for that sort of stuff. So I don't think it's quite, I think there's a bit of apples and oranges there, but I do think it was, to your point, very, very targeted. And I think that this was the way to sort of send a message to Putin and to the world that we hear you and we're not going to be taking this lying down. It was sort of a nuanced form of saber rattling, or a response to Putin's saber rattling, I should say.
Yeah, I see that argument, and I would see it if it went through, if it was Blinken or Sullivan or somebody like that. But you'd think they would have played it higher up in the story. They would have made more of a point. I'm confused by how it was all done, and it seems at the same time it could have very easily been what you laid out, or it could have been a deputy in the National Security Council who didn't get to go on the Brussels trip, who was over at the bar at the Hay Adams with the New York Times reporter, just kind of yucking it up and made a couple of offhanded comments, and the Times leads us no way to know which one it is.
Leland, you seem to know a lot about this source, and I got to go to that bar and hang out with this dude. I think you're right.
You know the bar is called Off the Record for a reason.
Exactly right, and I think what you just said there is correct. They buried the lead, right? And was the lead buried by design, or was it just an editor that was working late and hadn't really thought it through? I think it was probably the former. I think you're right to say that this is sort of a bombshell that really changes things, a horrible metaphor for this. But I will say, though, and I've been spending time researching and tracking Russian propaganda on Russian television, And there is an increased amount of rhetoric on Russian political talks from the hawks there saying they should be prepared to use nuclear armaments in Ukraine and even Warsaw. And so you're hearing this rhetoric ratchet up. And so what I suspect is that the Biden administration is fully aware of that. And this is their way of saying, look, we hear you and we see that, and we're not going to be caught with our pants down. We're going to be prepared for that. And it's a tiny needle to thread here, because the last thing they want to do is to provoke a guy who's clearly got a massive ego and isn't necessarily isn't abiding by any social contract, that's for sure. So they're trying to play it soft and letting this out. At the end of the day, like, I don't know, it feels a little weak. It feels a little, but here we are talking about it.
Yeah, it feels like if you're gonna do that, you have the Times write a whole piece about it and you lay it out in that way on background or something like that. It's not just
it's a headline.
Sort of slipped. Yeah, it's not slipped in halfway down the story. Hey, we got to run, but I really appreciate it, Colby. It's great to see you. As you point out, you guys over at Mediaite have done a phenomenal job of following the Russia propaganda and what,
I appreciate
what they're saying.
that, Leland.
Great work. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.